The thing is that, we talked about world reserve currencies. And if you look at history, they die a slow death. They die a death that's decades. And, they often flop around out there like a fish out of water, even after the issuing nation is not a superpower or the world's dominant military power. They still are out there. We're obviously in a really a bad place right now, our country, the U.S., because of our debt. And they are not going to default on that debt. That's not going to happen. Now, some people have talked about maybe growing out of our debt with AI or something like, with productivity. I don't see that happening personally. So I think that we're going to see a period where this continues. This inflation that we're seeing, whether you believe the figures or not, it doesn't matter. We all know that inflation's really high right now. I think that's going to continue. I mean, it's going to go in cycles and it's going to affect some people worse than others. Inflation really are vectors, how you're exposed to inflation within an economy. For me personally, I don't have as much exposure as like that family we were talking about a little while ago. 2 parents and 2 kids, they've got a lot of vectors exposed to inflation right now. So what are they going to have to do? Without getting into the concept of financial repression, I'll just say that in my mind, the U.S. is going to have to continue to debase their currency. And they are going to try and mitigate those inflationary forces as much as they can. And they're going to try to make it acceptable to us going forward. And if they resort to yield curve control like they did in World War II, after World War II, or during the war, if they resort to that, well, we will be aware of it then. And that's where they'll cap yields. They'll force the yields at a certain level, and then they'll just monetize the debt. For anybody out there, especially young people, you've got to protect yourself. You're the one that's responsible for protecting you. You only have 3 things to do. Don't just look down. Think of yourself as sitting like on a 3-legged stool. You've only got 3 things to do right now. All you got to do is get Bitcoin. You got to get as much Bitcoin as you can get right now. You've got to hodl the Bitcoin. You got to hold on to it. And people get shaken out all the damn time. And you cannot lose the Bitcoin. You just can't. So you got to know what you're doing. And if you don't have the capability, I talked about multi-sig. There are going to be some people that are thinking about multi-sig on an individual basis. It's somebody in their basement down there and going, I'm going to do multi-sig. Well, if you don't understand multi-sig, for instance, if you don't know what a wallet configuration file is, or the fact that there are 3 XPubs generated in a 3 wallet situation, or you're going to lose your Bitcoin. You're going to screw it up. It's going to be gone. But you cannot lose that Bitcoin. So why are you doing this? Because, and I may be wrong, but if I'm right, and this is the future for us, then it's up to you. And if you are a family member, people are looking up to you. You got to do the right things. You got to think about the future for your family, the people that love you and the people that are counting on you. I suck at orange pilling. I don't know why, but I just suck at it. And I've tried to orange pill my family, and they don't get it. I've got, between my kids and son-in-laws, and I must have 12 of them. And so nobody's gotten it except one. So, but he's creating generational wealth for his family. I mean, he's doing it. And, when I say that, I mean, Bitcoin is, when I say $1 million a coin, it's going there. That I am absolutely certain of. And then once it gets there, it's going to keep going. It's not going to stop. So I may not be here, but for the rest of you, you're going to see this. I mentioned this once in a podcast, and I got a lot of pushback, and probably for a good reason. But I'm going to say it again, and then I'll try and explain myself better. Right now, with Bitcoin at 100,000 coin, you can get a tenth of a Bitcoin for $10,000. Bitcoin's volatility can be sickening. I mean, there have been times when I bought Bitcoin in its volatility, especially as it was collapsing, where I almost felt like I needed to go for a walk, and maybe I was going to throw up or something. It can be really difficult to hold on to. And in fact, usually that's a great time to buy. I remember in this last cycle, Bitcoin was dropping. I had bought all the way up to like 60,000 because cause. And I kept buying all the way down. And then finally it got down to around 20, maybe 22,000. And I still was buying once in a while, but it was getting increasingly uncomfortable. I was almost becoming mentally challenged, because I remember one night in particular, it must have been 3 a.m. and I was just laying there in the bed. I was staring at the ceiling, and my wife was laying next to me, and just quietly sleeping. And I'll tell you, she's the love of my life, man. And she puts her trust in me. I mean, not once, she's told me several times, I am the king of the house. I am the master. And she said that in front of the kids, and they hate that. They roll their eyes, and it's like, oh, that's disgusting. But she means it. And, before anybody has any kind of weird thoughts about her, she's brilliant. She's smarter than I am. She's got a master's degree. She's a health professional treating people, and, she's smart as a whip. But she trusts me. And, I remember thinking, gee, if I made a great mistake here, my wealth was down, on paper, it was probably down 50, 60%. What I did is I just started studying my ass off. I mean, I started watching podcasts like this. I started again, I was already deep in the rabbit hole. I started reading books again, same ones. I mean, I started reading articles. I started doing all kinds of stuff. And you know what? Bitcoin dropped to $17,000, and I bought like a motherfucker. What I'm trying to say is, so for $1,700, I got a tenth of a Bitcoin. Now it cost, a $10,000 chunk. And when it goes to $1 million, you're going to have to come up with $100,000. So we're going to be leaving a lot of our friends here, our plebs, behind. We're on a train station. You look out there, they're standing out there. And these are people you love. They're your friends. They're people you care about. They're going to get left behind. So you got to stack. You got to stack for other people too. And I guess what I'm going to try to say is that the reason you're doing this is because someday, and it's a long ways off for people like you, but someday for me, I'll be gone. And when I'm gone, when they're reading that will, I want the people that love me, I want them to stand around in a circle and go down and look in their hand, and there's going to be a Bitcoin magically appear in their hand, and they're going to go, I've got a ticket. I can get on that train and I can go somewhere now. That's what I want. And that's what I hope other people will do.
So cool. That is so cool. I like you said, I think that's the hope of many Bitcoiners. I would like to transition. We were talking offline about the Rothschilds a little bit, and just the buy, borrow, dynasty. So I would love for you to kind of touch on, because you made me just think of this, like the buy, borrow, die. We just talked about generational wealth and doing this for your family, for the people around you, your country, where you live. But I would love for you to kind of just unpack some of the background of really even the last couple hundred years of central banking and kind of what's led us to the time we're in now, and how the system works in this fiat standard, and how the game's played, and where we're transitioning to.
If you want the answer to that question right there, and you like that spicy clip, check it out here. Come on, we'll see you in there. But if you want the full interview in its entirety, all the spicy clips put together, and you're not going to want to miss it, believe me, then check that out here. Come on, we'll see you in there. Do it.